All right, Friends Who Ramble is back. It is the two semifinal losers, the third place game participants, which money's still on the line, so there is some meaning behind that, I guess. Um, we're here to talk about what went wrong for us, do a little bit of a preview for the finals, and that's really it. We don't really care too much to talk about any of these consolation bracket matchups, but as always, we are brought to you by our two proud sponsors, Sundog Multimedia. Sundog is an online communication and social media company. What started as a personal tool has since evolved into something much bigger, allowing users to communicate, research, and discover things that impact their lives and daily decisions. Sundog will collaborate with you to build and execute a modern yet nimble social media strategy by utilizing innovative and traditional media principles. Sundog is also a proud supporter of the Stop Soldier Suicide Foundation. You can follow them on Instagram at sundog underscore multimedia. That is Instagram at sundog underscore multimedia. Brains, brawn, and true professionalism. That's easy peasy moving in service. Muscle for hire, moving, assembly, errands, you name it, they will do it. Easy peasy is a multi service team. If you need something, just ask. All right, George. Yeah, I figured I wanted to have you on. I was thinking, did I want to do a championship preview? Did I want to do a solo show? But I think ultimately it was better to just have the two losers, especially I felt like it was fitting because it was you and me. A good pairing there. So it was good to have you back on the show. It's been 2 months, I think we were saying, before we started recording. But yeah, I figured we would do that, and then next week I can have the champion on. That way we don't get too redundant with back-to-back guests. But yeah, we went into two matchups. I felt like it was, probably the most interesting Final Four. I think when you're looking at it from a story writing perspective, just the four teams. Not only the four teams total, but also the matchups within that. I felt like it was very fitting where it was me versus Bowen. Two guys who really came up in the fantasy game together. We're talking since eighth grade. We've been doing this stuff together. So the two of us against each other, and then you versus Pete, which I'm not sure if it's a rivalry, if it's just sort of adversarial. But you two have always gone back and forth over the years. So getting the two excommunicated Lex Pens and Pete hosts, going against each other, that was also a pretty meaningful matchup there. But the two of us lost. So I lost 162.04 to 130.12 against the Zits. You lost, where is that score? 136.85 to 105.6 to Pete. So really uncompetitive from both of us. Just about a 30-point loss on both sides. Um, I'll start with myself since I'm already going. I will say, you know, it was kind of a digestible loss for me. There just really wasn't anything I could do. There were really no lineup regrets. I'm not looking at my bench saying like, how did I not start this guy? Because nobody on my bench really went off, and the guys that maybe outscored my starters, it was whatever. It was all negligible. But I'm pretty. I'm happy with how the season went. Of course, here I am. I have an opportunity to win. I think my buy-in back. I think we might have shrunk that down to half the buy-in. I'm not sure. I'll have to check those numbers. But nobody believed in me going into the season. Nobody believed in me. I think everybody had me, kind of outside looking in on the playoffs. A lot of teams, especially last year, thought that I would be pretty bad for a pretty long time. George, you yourself, you were chirping me for my lack of success in this league, and it's all right. I mean, I'm not hanging any banner here. I'm not looking to. I know Joe tried to hit me with that chirp calling me the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not hanging any banners here, but it's more just when I look at that loss, what can I do? I lost by 30 points. I put up 130 in the semifinals. My opponent put up 162. That's a good team. I mean, since week three, I scored 124.3 points per game. In that span, I never scored below 109.6. That's always kind of been my forte when I've found success in this league. And it's only been 2 out of the 5 years. But in year one, I was a really good floor team, but it felt like my ceiling was a lot lower. So when I was hitting that floor, it felt like I was always going to score between 110 and 120 points a week, and that was just very tough going into the playoffs. But this year, I had a little bit more of a ceiling. I found guys like Joe Mixon. For most of the year, he was like a 20-point machine. Chuba Hubbard kind of coming out of nowhere as a fantasy stud. And then, a lot of my receivers seemed to take a step up. And of course, with my quarterbacks hitting on Darnold as well. But, I was able to put up a lot bigger weeks. I was able to go on a good run, get myself back in. So, I'm happy with how the season went. Can't really complain. Like I said, it's easy to kind of get over a 32-point loss when there was absolutely nothing you could do. So, I'm feeling good about that. Lessons learned really it just kind of fuels that hunger inside of me now. Now that I've gotten a taste of actually being a pretty good team. I'm looking at my roster. I think I'm going to get some guys back. Stephon Diggs should come back at some point from the torn ACL. Michael Pittman, he did play the whole year, but I do think that back injury affected him more, and he probably should have spent some time on IR. So hopefully getting him back up to what he was maybe last year or a little bit closer to that should be helpful to my team. But I think there are some moves I can make, some things I want to go off. I'm in try some different things and figure some things out with that. But always tinkering, and we'll see where I take that. But you, George, it was a little bit of a controversial week for you. Of course, everybody talked about you not starting Mahomes. You started Michael Penix over Patrick Mahomes. I actually think that the more heinous lineup decision was actually going Tyler Lockett over Kareem Hunt. But to each their own. I mean, in the end, it didn't matter. Even if you did substitute both of those in for those two guys, you still would have lost, but you still would have needed like 3 more points to get that. But at least you would have gone into Monday night feeling like you had more of a chance. And for what it's worth, Jaden Reed, he was stopped at the 1 or 2 yard line with a touchdown opportunity. So, we could be having a little bit different of a conversation there. But I'll pass the mic to you now. I've gotten my thoughts in on my team and, taking my jabs at your team as well, both in the league chat and just giving my thoughts here. But I'm sure you have some sort of statement that you're ready to give.
Yeah, I mean, one, I mean, I think it's good for the league. The Pins continue to dominate discourse and discussion and, be one of the league standards. And I think that's why we got that nickname as a standard. That means you don't always win it every year, but you're always in contention. They're always talking about you. Um, in terms of our lineup decision, it was so going into, I mean, Patrick Mahomes essentially breaks his ankle. I mean, that's what they were telling me. They told me he's broke his ankle. Maybe he'll play Saturday, or maybe they'll hold him out Saturday. Maybe he'll play Wednesday. So we're looking at that, and Loki, we knew he was always going to play because Pat's a psychopath. But um, we're looking at the pass rush of the Texans, and we're looking at just the way that the Chiefs' offense has performed overall, and we're like, if Pat's on a gimpy knee, gimpy ankle, and they're rushing him, it might be tough. And the Giants absolutely stink. So P might actually be able to get the ball to his playmakers and score some touchdowns. So we took a risk there, thinking that Mahomes might be somewhat limited in that matchup, and then like whatever 20 minutes into the game, he's running for a touchdown, and we were like, oh, I didn't you run? I didn't realize that you could. I didn't really. Not only is your ankle healthy, but you're a dual threat quarterback. But so that happens. And then the Kareem Hunt, we also looked at Kareem Hunt, but the week before, Isaiah Pacheco against the Browns was running really strong, dominated a lot of the work, and was looking like he was getting back to being sort of like that bell cow back. And we knew that it was essentially like a touchdown or bust for him. And we kind of just made the decision at that point that, maybe we can get Lockett in there. I mean, Lockett's dead. So that is a regrettable decision because at least Kareem Hunt could have scored the touchdown, whereas Lockett, it was JSN. It's always been JSN since like week 4. But that was the decision making there. But yeah, we thought that Pat was going to be a little bit hobbled, and we thought that Penix would actually be able to move the goal against the Giants secondary, and that was the decision making there.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I mean, yeah, I just felt like I don't know. I mean, Tyler Lockett in the semifinals, that's crazy to me. Like you said, Kareem Hunt at least has, touchdown vulture upside, and um, he ended up doing that. But yeah, I mean, I don't not see what you were doing with the Mahomes thing. I just felt like it was like a day or two before they were like, yeah, he's gonna go. Like all signs point to him going. And I think at that point, I understand like the Penix hype. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just Sitting Mahomes for a rookie in a super flex league, it just felt crazy. I honestly thought that you guys maybe like did that just to be safe and then kind of just forgot to go back to it. The conspiracy theorists in the league, I'm not going to name any names. They are chirping a little bit. They do notice that you have or McMorrow has your first round pick. There are a lot of thoughts because people do remember the last time that you benched Mahomes with playoff implications. It was to take yourself out of the playoff race, and that actually helped you get a better pick to land Jamar Chase, I believe, which I think has been a bit of a difference maker in the history of two pins there. People notice that McMorrow has your first round pick. People think that maybe you guys went into this league or went into this week thinking that you really had no shot, so why not just try and like tank the pick? And then you guys are already talking to McMorrow about making a move and getting that pick back. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm not speaking to those. Like I said, I'm not going to name names. I don't know if you want to address that at all.
I mean, anybody who's followed our anybody who's followed us over the past like year and a half, the crazier thing is to think that we thought that deeply about our assets at this point in the season. No, that didn't happen.
All right. All right. We'll see. I mean, if things heat up and you guys do end up making a move for a pick, or maybe it's one of those where now that I've pointed it out, now you guys almost can't do it. So, yeah, I guess we'll have to. We'll see. Time will tell. But I don't know. What's ahead for two pins? I know there was some controversy. I know that there were talks with the commissioner about you guys not coming back. It seems like things have kind of cooled off in that sense. I do think that there will be some changes in ownership, but I do think that your team is safe. So has Two Pins put any thought into what's coming for 2025?
Yeah, it's been a contentious year. It's been a real contentious year, but I think we have started thinking about 25. I mean, this year was always, I think we said this at the beginning of the year where we just wanted to compete, kind of keep that standard of competing even when like we didn't really think that it was going to be our year. I mean, Jamar obviously was going crazy, but we figured like maybe we can compete, maybe we kind of do what we did. Um, Pete, I think, someone in the league said that we fell off, which is like, I guess if, playing in the semifinals is falling off, then that's a tough standard. But, you set your own standard and you're held to that. So obviously us playing in not being in the finals is falling off for some teams. But this year is going to be a lot of work because this year we have to turn the roster like pretty much entirely. We didn't know whether or not we wanted to kill it this year or kill it next year. We didn't own our first. This is our first year in like 3 years that we own our first round pick going into 26. So we can actually make some moves and think about the future in that regard. We didn't own it in 25, so we figured it was worth going for it. But I think we're gonna, continue to do what we've always done, which is just try to put a competitive team out there and also try to build for the future.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think maybe I'm just trying too hard to read between the lines there, but it does feel like you maybe could be a little interested in trying to strip it down. I mean, you do have those building blocks, though. I mean, you showed that you weren't scared to trade Herbert, and of course that landed you Jaden Daniels. But now you got Mahomes and Daniels. You do have Penix in the wing, and then you got what Jamar Chase, who I mean that's an unbelievable building block there. I don't know. Do you have anybody else that's really I mean,
No,
you
we
have like
didn't.
the veterans you could trade away, but it's like, I mean, it feels like you have like those pillars right there, where yeah, maybe you can try and just consolidate all those veterans into other things and try a little bit of a different direction and like you said, all eyes on 2026. Having kind of say and how your pick ends up.
Yeah, yeah, that's the goal is to get our land arch maybe in 26 and just to have them. Not because we need another quarterback, just because that'd be fucking
Yeah,
cool.
it's very interesting. I will say for myself, I mean, I'm definitely looking to continue building on what I did. I mean, I definitely have young pieces there. I think, my quarterbacks are at a young age. I think Sam Darnold, where he ends up, will be the key for me because, I really he's obviously in like a perfect situation right now. One with his coach, he is one of the best coaches in the league. He is one of the best receivers, I'd say, of all time to throw to. He also has Justin Jefferson. He has T.J. Hawkinson, and then they have a solid run game to build off of that as well. And it's like I'm almost nervous. I'm nervous that he's going to go to like a team like the Raiders, where okay, they have Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, that's great, but I'm worried about the organization itself. I saw like interview clips and stuff where Darnold's talking about when he went to San Francisco, and then I think also that carried over to when he went to Minnesota, where it sounds like organizational strength is actually a big value of his, and that to me kind of sounds like trauma from being drafted by the Jets and then having to start for them. So I think that he's one of those where it's like he never wants to go back to a situation like that again. So I guess that kind of helps me a little bit. I'm really hoping that the Vikings just keep him, extend him, and maybe JJ McCarthy becomes like a Trey Lance situation where he has to end up trying it out somewhere else. But um, yeah, I think where he ends up will be the big key. I have Kyler Murray. Levis was obviously, a bit of a flop for me. We'll see how that turns out. But with the rest of my roster, it's pretty young. I have the veterans to fill it out, but those are good depth pieces. So I think what I really want to try and get is like I need somebody that everybody is scared of. Like you guys have Jamar Chase and Bowen has Saquon Barkley and they're the players like that where even though some of my guys have that big upside, right? Like Mixon can always put up the 20-point weeks, or Chuba Hubbard can go off and he put up that huge performance when it mattered the most. But I don't have guys where it's like you're going into it and you're like, fuck, like I'm facing this guy this week and he's going to be on Monday Night Football. So I think, to tip my hand a little bit, that's definitely the direction I'm trying to take things in, where it's like I want to get a guy that I feel like gives me that. So, if I can, try and do that, I think I have the depth to try and cash in a little bit on that. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I think both of our teams are in interesting spots. And yeah, I'd be interested to see how you guys take it, like you said, especially with your own pick. But what do you want to move on to the championship matchup now? I mean, we don't have to do too in depth. I mean, the app hasn't even updated yet, so we can't even really get the full side by side when it comes to the starting
We touch
lineups.
on
But
can we touch on the tight end trade that broke the internet?
there's two ways we can take that because there's one where you robbed Igor, but then there's another one where I robbed you. So, which one did you want to start with?
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about how the chat came at us. We got a lot of very negative press over our trade to acquire Travis Kelce, and it turned out that the real tight end trade, the real fleecing, was us trading you, George Kittle, for Ben Sinnott. Well, I don't even know. I'm not even sure if Ben Sinnott plays. I have. I've tried to look this up. I've Googled it. I've asked people.
Zach Ertz got like a pretty bad concussion, and he ended up getting like one catch out of it. So
Uh, and then I don't even know, like some fucking third round pick or something. I don't
yeah,
even.
2026 second.
Yeah, so that was really the trade that we should be talking about and people should have attacked us for, but no one said anything about that, and then no one wants to talk about how Travis Kelce was all but useless for us throughout the year and in the fantasy playoffs gave us 5 points. But
Yeah, it
that
looks like on a
was
per game
interesting.
basis, Kittle might be having the best year of his career. In just 13 games, he already has the second best total points output that he's had. So if he scores 1.31 next week, that'll beat his 2019 score that he put up in 14 games. And then he has three more games to catch his 214.7 from 2018. So he's definitely having a bit of a career year, I'd say, especially this late in his career. So it turned out pretty big for me. I mean, that's why I made the move too. I felt like I needed a guy, and I mean, he was way more consistent than I've ever kind of viewed him. I always viewed Kittle as a guy that's going to get you like 5 to 7 points a lot of weeks, but then he's going to like literally win you a week with a 30 point, output. So that's kind of what I was going for. And then he ended up just being like getting me, 14 points or more every single week. So he was unbelievable. We'll see. Of course, it's always tough at this point in the career, especially as a tight end. And, he's a guy that deals with injuries. So it's like, it's tough to kind of value him. And that can always be a tough market. So he could end up just being a guy that's just my tight end forever. I do have Ingram on the bench too. And then I picked up Brenton Strange because I read that it's pretty easy to cut Evan Ingram for the Jags this offseason. So Ingram could end up in a pretty good situation himself. He could go somewhere else. And then, Brenton Strange could slide in. He's actually been pretty good when Ingram's been hurt. So, maybe some people will say I had my eyes on next year already, but I made some pickups between Strange and Marvin Mims that I was pretty happy with, in their first weeks on my team. So, you know what? I'm excited for 2025. I'm looking to make some moves, and I will say as we move into the championship conversation, I'm a little bit worried because I think one team is already thinking about making some moves with me once the off season starts. So I'm a little worried about focus there. Maybe you can take a guess at which team that is. But I will say you did hint at a message that was sent, Pete, talking about your team. I do want to read that just to maybe to give you some fire before we get into breaking down this matchup. A year or two ago, this win would have been big for me. I hate that this was a simple speed bump. Your fall from grace was disgusting, and I hope you either leave this league or bring back the fire you used to have. For now, get fucked. At two pins at Joe Schmo's show. That message was from Slippery Pete, and he sent that when Jaden Reed still had a game to play, and of course it would have taken like a 35-point game, but um, he was planting that flag at the center of the field pretty early. How are you feeling about Slippery Pete's rise in his run to the championship?
Yeah, I mean, his rise has been like a general scumbag, right? I mean, he's been a scumbag about it since he came in the league and continues to be a scumbag. I reached out to him personally to say congratulations on the win, didn't get an answer, reached out in the chat, got attacked with that message. So you hate to see some people once they get a little bit of success, it intoxicates them and uh, they're going to be scumbags about it. Some guys are good guys. So you never know, how the success is going to impact them. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I saw that message, and so it is what it is. I do think the success has gotten to him, and he's pretty happy about where the process has gotten him, and he has a solid team. I mean, Um, he's dead this week in terms of actually having a chance to win this championship, in my opinion. But making it to the championship is nothing to snuff about, and now we'll see if he can put it together consistently because that's the mark of difference between a good team and a great team is the people that are there every year. And so he was there this year, but we'll see if he can continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, my goal going into the season was to build that team out with a bunch of depth and like I said, not lose the bye weeks, not be devastated by injuries. But in the end, it kind of felt like those two top heavy teams won out. And I don't know if it's a battle of good versus evil or anything like that, but yeah, it just feels like I said, one goal that I had for my own team was that I wanted to get a player that teams feared when they had to go against them, and that's what both of these teams have. And Pete, of course, he's got the guys like Bijan Robinson, Kyron Williams, Jonathan Taylor going absolutely nuts last week. But having that running back core is just so insane when you get guys that are getting that type of volume, and they're getting the touchdown opportunities as well. It's unbelievable what that can do to elevate your team. And he's survived. I mean, a lot of people were thinking, oh, Anthony Richardson, if he gets benched or if anything like happens like that, he could be fucked. Flacco was not great when he was stepping in for those, few games. And, there's always worry the last couple seasons about Stafford being hurt, being too old, thinking about retirement, anything like that. But, he managed to survive all of it. I mean, he did, build out a little bit better depth than, maybe we were giving him credit for, at least than he had before. Like, at least he's able to put a guy like DK Metcalf on his bench or, he has the choice between these three quarterbacks at this point. But yeah, I mean, it's a good team. It feels like he is top to bottom, like the most stacked starting lineup in the league. But the Zits, they just keep finding a way. And, Saquon Barkley, he's absolutely unbelievable and just like what he's able to do. And I mean, we'll see, what the deal is with Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's going to be a big determining factor, I think, for both of these teams. I mean, of course, if Pete can't start Jalen Hurts, that's going to be a huge blow to him. I know that fucked a ton of teams in their semifinal matchup. Actually, in my one redraft league, that was a big help that helped me get to the championship because Jalen Hurts got hurt so early. So if he's not there to play in that, then you're relying on Anthony Richardson to be consistent and put up a big day. Of course Matthew Stafford coming in, but then that could really hurt Saquon as well. I mean, we'll see what Kenny Pickett's able to do. I mean, they were just playing for field goals the entire time with him. So Jalen Hurts' concussion status can be a huge factor in this game. I mean, I'm not sure who would be hurt more. I would assume, probably Pete, just because that is like his best quarterback on the team. But having either of those positions, impacted like that would be pretty brutal. What's your read on the Zits? I mean, they're looking to go back to back. You had the opportunity to do that. Of course, that resulted in the DeMar Hamlin game, where we call you guys the half champions. But Bowen's going for back to back, and I think a lot of people bumped him down. They had him ranked, maybe second or third going into the season, but here he is right back in it. And it almost feels like there was never a doubt for him. So, I guess last year he had the power of, getting married in December, and then this year he had the power of, having a baby, going into the home stretch. So maybe that's just where, that voodoo magic will wear off eventually. But Bowen's right back at it. How do you feel about the Zits?
Yeah, I mean he's got the most complete team in the league, and I think the biggest thing for him is they both have this quarterback question, right? Because I think that I don't know if anybody that watches football has any idea if Seattle's good or not. It depends on who you ask, what day it is. Like, is it Tuesday, Wednesday? Who they just play? And so, like, Gino is the classic example of a quarterback that, like, Gino could is he's all he sucks. Like, he sucks. He's also like a top 10 quarterback, so it just depends on like what day you ask me. And that's going to be pretty big for him. But other than that, I feel like Xavier Worthy, I traded for Xavier Worthy in a redraft league because Xavier Worthy was like the sneakiest second half, no brainer, going to come on. If you watch what happened with Rashee Rice last year, it's like obviously they're just going to do the same thing with Xavier Worthy. And that's exactly what's happening is they're starting to get him more involved. They're starting to get him featured. They're creating plays for him to get involved in the game and he's really coming into his own. So you need that kind of like sleepy, sneaky player um, to come along later for you in the year. So I really like that. And then I think that JMO is one of those players where with that DMAW injury, you're going to see the Lions kind of have to open it up a little bit more, especially because their defense can't stop a nosebleed. So you're going to see the Lions open it up a little bit more just because they're going to be in more shootouts. They're not going to be controlling the game script, I think, the way that they want to be. And that's going to lead to opportunities for players like JMO. And so that's another one of those like later season. Obviously, he's benefiting from that DMAW injury, but I think it's good for him. So I think he has a real complete team.
Yeah, and these are two teams that are kind of going into it. Of course, I mentioned the Hurts injury, but otherwise they're all pretty healthy. And yeah, I mean Worthy just turning it on down the stretch like that is absolutely massive. And then getting a guy like JMO to produce like that, especially in the playoffs, is just so huge. I mean that was like a dagger too. Going against Bowen was that like 80-yard touchdown that he had. It was like I mean I'm not going to come back from that. I'm not going to be able to. That's so many points in just that one play that now all of a sudden you have to chase. So. I think there was a moment actually in like the early 4 o'clock slate where it felt like okay, maybe I have a chance here, but yeah, it was just I mean this team is just unbelievable. I mean I'm trying to pull up the some of the weeks that they've put up where when I'm looking at it, 162, 124, 141, 166, 172. That was just like that was down the stretch. I was just reading their last 5 or 6 games right there. So the Zits, they've been unbelievable. They've won 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of their last 11. I mean, that's absolutely insane. I mean, this team is just so powerful. And I'm looking at these matchups too. I don't have Pete's matchups in front of me, but you got Lamar in front of Houston. You got Saquon going against Dallas. I think that he's leaning Bryce Young, and it almost feels like a personal thing because Pete and uh, Bowen, they have that bet of Bryce Young versus Anthony Richardson by the end of the season. I believe it's by the end of the regular NFL regular season. Uh, Bryce Young will be within 750 keep trade cut points. On their dynasty rankings, and when they made that bet, it was huge. I mean, Bowen honestly kind of got ripped off. He should have gotten like crazy odds, but they agreed on within 750 points, and here we are. I think that they're within like 500 right now. I mean, personally, I would put Bryce Young over Anthony Richardson. I understand a lot of people want to continue to bet on those tools, but I'm a guy that looks for actual good quarterback play, and that's what Bryce Young's been giving him right now. So Bryce Young's going against Tampa. That secondary has been terrible. So I mean, I feel like just looking at those quarterback matchups, looking at that star matchup with Saquon Barkley, Amon Ra, he's playing is it Minnesota? They're going against San Francisco. I mean, I feel like that's a game where he's just going to step up and continue to produce like he's been playing as well. So, I mean, it just feels like everything's clicking at the right time where Pete's team is just good by force, but I think that Bowen's team is that level of good as well, but also they're getting the scheduling luck and that team just has the vibes and like the way that they're playing. I mean, Josh Jacobs put up a great week, 18.7. He barely even played the second half. That team is clicking as well. And in Green Bay, they're playing, yeah, they're playing Minnesota this week. So, I don't know. It feels like it's a lot of big time matchups, whether it's high stakes where you want to trust these stars to go off, or it's simply just a good matchup for some of these really good players. It just feels like the Zits are in a perfect position to go for the repeat. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You got anything else to say on this matchup, or do you want to get to predictions?
Let's go.
You want to start?
Um, sure.
Let's
I'm
do.
down.
Hold on. Let's start with the third place game. Me versus you. Who's gonna win like their $50 or whatever, and then we'll do the championship prediction.
Third place game. I'll give it to you. I think the other thing that nobody's talking about, and we don't want to talk about it too much either, just given our standing in the league. But Alvin Kamara, he traded in a touchdown for his health, and that kind of hurt us down the stretch there. So not having Alvin's big for us. So I'd say that you've got a better chance of coming out with the win in that game. So we'll probably end up in that fourth spot, which is okay, but we're going to continue to try to build. So that's my prediction for the 4-5 game is probably we're going to give it. It'll be tight. I actually think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a lower scoring game, like something in the I don't know 120 to 114 ish range, like somewhere in there. I don't think it's going to be too high scoring, um, but I think in the end, your team healthier, more equipped right now ends up pulling out the wind.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. It feels like one of those bowl games, maybe before the 12 team playoff where um, I have some. I'm trying to build for next year, and I'm trying to continue that, everything going. So I think my team's just going to come in a little bit fired up. I think the vibes are kind of on my side there. So, yeah, I honestly, I mean, the only money that I won this year from this league so far was from the bet that I made with Mitch, where I would outscore Big Brain, and you know, kind of in the least courageous thing I've ever seen. He paid me in like week 8, like one of the most insane white flags ever. But I got my money. It's all right. He didn't have to pay like $1 in interest. It's okay. Bird in the hand. All that stuff. So I'll take the money now. But yeah, it would be nice to actually get on the scoreboard for winning some money, some prize money from our actual dues. So to get some of that back would be very nice. But one thing I gotta say, now that it's just on my mind, I'm thinking about Mike Bowen. Mike Bowen's out here calling you guys like pathetic. I heard that Mike Bowen was saying that he deserved to be in your spot. Do you have anything to say to Mike Bowen? I know that's a good buddy of yours.
Mike Bowen deserved to be in the spot, like our championship
He
spot.
was he was pissed. He almost wanted it to be like a BCS situation where we just like put you guys in put him in ahead of you guys because he was like the stronger team. He was almost pissed that you guys were wasting this opportunity.
Oh, Bowen. I like Mikey. He's a good guy. He's a good kid, and he's always coming up with like ridiculous anecdotes and things like that. It's actually it's funny because me and Bowen, we used to have Little Bowen. We used to have a good relationship, and I feel like he's let Pete corrupt him a little bit, and so there's a little bit more negativity coming over from his side. But I don't take anything that Little Bowen says that seriously ever since we beat him in the championship, beat him in the playoffs last year. So he's one of those guys where he's always coming up with crazy ideas. He's always chirping, but everybody has that friend that's just like chirping around, and you just kind of let him say crazy ass shit, but we don't take them too seriously. So we focus on the guys that we have to focus on, the team that we're playing. But yeah, Mikey's always saying crazy ass shit. But I could text Mikey right now for a trade or something. Mikey's also quoted classic like I was going to give you a bigger haul, but we weren't talking at
Oh
all.
yeah.
So that's just how that goes.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. He's like from like the camp of Big Brain as well, where you know, like Big Brain was always the type they'd miss the playoffs and then be like, "Oh, if we got the 6th seed, we actually would have won based on how much we scored every week." It's like, well, you didn't make the playoffs, so what do you want to do? You should have won your first round matchup. You should have beat Pete. Now Pete's here in the championship, so what are you gonna do? But I gotta ask too. I was just thinking, you were talking about tanking for Arch. You're talking about, you're kind of hinting at stripping the team down. Does that mean that, one of these quarterbacks, maybe like a Patrick Mahomes, could be for sale?
I mean, look, we're going to look at everything during this off season, and I think we're going to be aggressive. We're going to be aggressive. I don't want to say the word tank because I honestly don't see us tanking. We have too much sweat equity in this league and have talked way too much shit to be bad for even an instant because I think people will definitely jump on that. But yeah, I mean we're gonna be aggressive in trying to get the team to be back where it is, and we know that like the time to sell like Cooper Cup was probably last off season or 2 seasons ago, right? Like the time to sell. We sold Kittle. We didn't get anything really for him. So we've kind of whatever maneuvered. So like we don't really have the Diggs we sold. So we don't really have like those guys anymore. So I mean, when you look at the roster, you got to start thinking like who are the players that we could sell to put us in a better position heading into 26. And yeah, we're gonna be aggressive and everything's gonna be on the table.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of shaping up to be an interesting offseason because I think another team, Simcoe, he's in a spot where he's kind of looking around, he's trying to figure out, he has, a bunch of really good pieces, but he has no bench and he has no running backs, and he also has no picks. So how is he going to get any of that? So now all of a sudden he's thinking, well, shit, I have Josh Allen, I have Drake May, I have Justin Herbert. So obviously it makes sense to trade one of those guys, but then you're thinking, well, what can I get for these guys? And then all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe I should be trading Josh Allen and just trying to get an absolute haul. So, I think it would be interesting to see, what one of your quarterbacks could get on the market, especially a guy like Pat Mahomes, because that would be, that's somebody that I feel like, I've never really seen get traded around like that. So, and of course, he's not always the highest scorer, but it's like, it's Pat Mahomes. He has the most job security like in sports. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to come knocking and try and get one of these guys on your roster. I mean, I was trying to get some of these guys earlier in the season, but of course that didn't work out. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you said, of course, in hindsight, the time to sell on some of those guys was maybe a year or two ago. But I think in your case, right, like McMorrow's team, he still ended up getting a decent haul for some of his players, and you definitely could have gotten more. But he was also like sitting on it and like dead in the water. Like you were still able to make it to semifinals. Where'd you guys end up last year?
I think we
Because
were first one exit because we had some injuries.
Yeah, that's right. But like you guys made the playoffs and then you guys made the semifinals this year. So it's like you guys were still there. So it's like it made sense for you guys to do it. It just didn't work out. But yeah, I mean, I think it is kind of a case by case basis when it comes to when and if you should even be trading some of these veterans. But yeah, I think you guys going into 2025 are definitely in a spot where it's worth exploring. And I'm curious to see how the market starts to open back up as maybe McMorrow starts to move some of these picks, or he starts to at least fill out a team and get some of these players, and maybe he looks to make some moves. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this could actually be like I think we're sneaking up on, or we have sneaking up on us a very crazy offseason. I feel like a lot of people were frustrated around the deadline, couldn't really get anything going. But I think now that we're a little bit more free and people don't, people aren't committed to competing now or anything like that. Things could really shake out crazy. So,
I
all right, moving on to
I'm
the
interested in
championship.
just last thing. One, I just will make the statement, and I don't really need any more context with Simcoe's a historically bad manager. Like asset his asset allocation and management of his team is historically bad. I mean, to be as good as he was, I literally texted him, I think, sent him a message on Sleeper, like, and I was like, "What happened to your team?" And I have no idea how he mismanaged his assets like that. He's kind of like Chris Ballard. He's like people think he's good, and it's like you look at the way I'm like his asset management is just awful. Um, it's just terrible. He had Lamar on his team, and then he like I don't know, whatever. Um, and
He's
then
got he's got Josh Allen, he's got Justin Herbert, he's got Drake May.
he's yeah, but he's like he had Jalen Hurts and Lamar, like he just is like
That's true.
swapping out his like great players, but then like decimating his team in the process. I don't know. I
Hey,
don't know.
I'll say I feel like I was kind of in a spot like that, like literally last year, where it's like it just felt like all the good players that were on my team were on my team. Like it's like I was trading away all these good guys, and like those trades weren't working. Like like Nico Collins will just like always haunt me. But then all of a sudden, you know what? some of those trades started to swing back in my favor, and all of a sudden I went from having like no picks, no depth to, all of a sudden I had, a full lineup and some decent depth. So it happens. And, I mean, even like looking back at like the, trading for Herbert, like maybe I would have been better off just holding on to that pick and taking Drake May or Jaden Daniels or whatever. And, you have moments like that too, but yeah, it's a win some, you lose some. And I feel like maybe Simcoe is recovering from, a downswing, but I feel like he's moving on the way up because he does have, he has the good players. It's just that he literally has limited options in a way to fill out the rest of his team. And if he can't do that, then yeah, he's in a bad spot. Yeah, like right now he's in a bit of hell. But I think he can maneuver his way out of it. We'll see. But it sounds like you're a little less optimistic than I am. So
No, his asset allocation is terrible. But and then the last thing I'll say is that I'm interested heading into this offseason. The one thing that I'm interested in is this Mikey Bowen tank situation. I think that I don't know, don't want to be big econ guy, but it's interesting that he has a surplus of picks, uh, which means that obviously in the market there is no picks, but it also means that he's kind of bidding against himself in any trade where the only person with the next pick would be himself. So if you were in a trade with him and he was like, "Well, I want to give you pick two," but it's like, "Well, you have pick one and pick two. So if I trade you for pick three, that means you already know who you want at pick one and pick two. Versus if
yeah.
another owner has pick two, that pick's more valuable because whatever the case may be. So I'm interested to see how people negotiate, knowing that like if he's just stuck with all those picks, how valuable is that to him, or is the real value in the fact that he thinks he can move all these picks? And if we just freeze him out and are just like none of us will trade with you, you're just gonna have to take eight rookies.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will. Yeah, like you said, I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I feel like there's always going to be a scab that crosses the picket line and sees a buying opportunity. I mean, to me, that just feels like something that like Bowen would do, right? It's like, oh, what seems like we all have like a silent pact to not make a trade, and then all of a sudden Zach Bowen slides in and completely rips him off, and suddenly gets like a new franchise cornerstone or something. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because it's like it is almost, it feels like he's kind of painted himself into a corner where now he just has to make every pick and like just hope that he can get guys that people like and maybe try and trade them once he makes the pick. But yeah, I mean maybe it's going to be one of those where he's like making the pick for the person then trading that player, or something. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how it goes. Because it also feels like just knowing how McMorrow has negotiated trades over the years too, it feels like he's maybe gonna, like is he gonna be able to lower his standards too and just be like, you know what, like I'm not gonna get greedy and demand like an extra third rounder when I'm trading, all these picks to get, these two players or something like that. So I don't know. I don't know. I would like to almost fast forward to that and just see how it goes. But I wish I just knew like when he's going to have an actual roster, and then I'm curious to see what it looks like. Like what players, because there are players that are in the league now that will be on McMorrow's team at some point in the next year or two. I would think. I don't think he's gonna fill his team out with completely rookies. So who's going to make those trades with him? Who's going to do the business with him? I feel like there might be people already working those back channels. So I don't know. We'll see. It feels like McMorrow always has his, toes dipped in, a little bit of everything. So, yeah. And then I guess one last housekeeping thing before we get to the official prediction. I'd like to do like very soon after the championship. I would like to do the conference realignment. Of course, we're going to split into two conferences instead of three divisions now. George, I'd actually like to get your opinion on this as well. I've talked to a few people, a few trusted people, within my cabinet. But I'm thinking for the two conferences, I think it's just going to be a random draw. I'm not going to try and change fate or anything. But I would like to do. I want to make winning matter again. I don't want to have people be like okay with losing, any given week as long as they put up a bunch of points. So I'm thinking in the two conferences, I want to have the top two teams by record. Those are automatic bids. Those are the top four seeds. Of course, the top team in each conference, that would be the one seed and the two seed, they would get a first round bye. And then the five and the six seed would be the next highest scoring teams after that.
The fourth, you're saying the four through
The
six.
five and the six. So the top two teams in the
Oh, the
playoff.
top two. You're taking the top two. Okay, got it. So
Yeah,
four.
so the top team from each conference would be the one and the two seed. That would be decided by points for afterwards. The next two winningest teams in each conference, that would be the three and the four seed, and then the five and the six seed would just be from either conference, the next highest scoring teams that weren't already in the playoffs. So I want wins to matter. I want people to feel like they need to win every week. I don't want people to be like, whatever, I lost, but who gives a shit? Like, I don't want a 5-win team making it. Hold on, I gotta go. We're back. But yeah, so it would just be like I said, I want wins to matter. So I want to reward the winning. And then, if you score a bunch of points, like you're probably going to win a bunch of games anyways. And if you don't, it's almost like a shoot for the stars. And even if you miss, you land on the moon, whatever, or whatever the fuck the thing is. But uh, so just try and score a bunch of points because you're probably going to win a bunch of games. And if not, you're in a good position to get that five or the six seed, as the wild card. But yeah, I mean, I think that shrinking it down, so not having like a third automatic bid from being a division winner, will, make it a little bit more competitive. And then, yeah, like I said, I think I'm just going to make it random alignment because, just because if I try to do it now by, who's good and who's bad, that could completely change 2, 3 years, and then all of a sudden you just end up with like a totally lopsided thing. So I feel like there's no point in trying to manipulate that at all. So I don't know. I'll probably do some sort of big show spectacle or anything like that, and then yeah, I don't know. That's all I got. Any other notes you have on 2024 or looking ahead to 2025?
No, let's do the predictions. That's an interesting note, but feels like it needs its own dedicated discussion.
Yeah, yeah, I think I'll try and iron that out and maybe get like a round table of some trusted people around the league to really hammer this out. But all right, who do you have winning the Friends Who Gamble championship this year?
Not to bury the lead, but um, I think that Bowen finishes the job, does what we couldn't do. Not that it mattered because obviously DeMar Hamlin's health was the most important thing that year, so no one even talks about the fact that we're a 1.5 time champion because that's to put fantasy football above another man's health, which would be crazy. So I hope no one talks about that or even considers that. But I think that he gets the job done, and I think he goes back to back, and we officially patch the torch, and there's a new dynasty in the Friends Who Gamble League, and it's Zach Bowen.
I gotta split it with you here. I'm taking Slippery Pete. I think he's gonna finish the story. Um, it almost feels like, when Dwight Schrute finally took over Dunder Mifflin or something like that. Like it feels like we're gonna enter a dark period if he becomes champion, but it just feels inevitable, right? I mean, he said he would do it. He called his shot. I believe to quote Jack Harlow, I did everything I said I would and said it first. This is exactly how he said that it would go. I got to take Slippery Pete here. I think that his team is just too good. I feel like it's too hard to go back to back in this league. I mean, the last time a team tried to do it, God tried to kill somebody to prevent that from happening. So I don't think that Bowen can win two in a row. I don't know if that can happen this early. In the history of this league, it's Slippery Pete all the way. There's no doubt about it.
You
All
get a
right,
score prediction?
score prediction. I'm gonna go. I'm thinking high scoring. I'm thinking really high score. I'm thinking one 157.03 Slippery Pete, 148.94 the Zits. I think that this is going to be an absolute slugfest. One for the books. What do you got?
Jeez, that is a high scoring. I'll give you the Zits. You know how the Zits get down. I do think that they break the 140s, which is just too much for Slippery Pete to catch. So I'll give you 143.7 for the Zits, and I will give you 131.2 for Slippery Pete. A comfortable win. Comfortable win, but it ends up being a comfortable win, but it feels like a sweat in the moment.
All right, there you have it. George is on the Zits to go back to back. I'm on Slippery Pete to finish the story. Once I post this episode, I will also post the poll in the league chat to see who everybody else has winning this one. But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, whether we're either going to have history made with a back-to-back champion or we're going to have a very polarizing champion take the crown. So I'm excited to see how it goes. And next week we will be joined by the champion to, give them their moment, give them their flowers, and give them an opportunity to gloat. So that's another episode of Friends Who Ramble. George, always a pleasure to have you on. And we look forward to having you back. I mean, we'll set something up to have you back on in the offseason. Probably some sort of offseason preview. Maybe how about the power rankings? We'll have you on for an offseason power rank.
Sounds good.
All right.